It is an absolutely fantastic album, so congratulations.
Oh, cheers, man. Thanks. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you absolutely fine.
Good. Good.
So, mate, this album, I understand that the what you wanted to explore on this album and what influenced it was the picked people. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about where that idea came about to focus on them for this album.
um, Basically, I felt I'd covered quite a lot of different subjects in Scottish history. And on the early albums, I used poetry. A lot of that was about the Scottish Wars of Independence and nature and all that kind of stuff. So it was just something different to kind of focus on. And I've always been obsessed with like Roman Britain, and especially the Picts coming from Scotland. I just find it really interesting, and there's a kind of mystery still about them because we don't know everything about them because we're basically relying on Roman Roman documents which are pretty biased. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just really interesting to me, and they left behind really beautiful carved stones. That's really the only physical thing we have, apart from bits of jewellery and stuff like that that we've found over the years. But yeah, that's basically why I decided to focus on that subject, and it was something different. And I don't think there's been any bands that have really focused on the Picts.
No, no. And Andy, when you have an idea in mind that you're going to base the album around, what's your songwriting process like then? Do you do a world of research? Do you read? Do you go to areas of Scotland that have got historical significance to get inspiration? What's your writing process like?
It's a little bit of everything, I think. I do like reading about it. Got some books I've read online about it, so I'm not an expert by any means, but I've got a decent amount of knowledge about it. Up in the Isle of Skye, my dad's got a place there, and there's a couple of Pictish stones up there. So that's kind of maybe how I started being interested in it. Yeah, and obviously the landscapes and nature had a huge influence to me as well. So yeah.
And where does your interest in history come from? Is it something that was explored when you were young? Like, was it your family interested in history, or where did that interest for history come about for you?
Um, I mean, it wasn't at school or anything like that because we didn't really get taught anything interesting in school.
Yeah.
We basically got taught about world wars and stuff like that, stuff you kind of know about already. We never really got taught about Scottish history as far back as the Picts. I mean, I don't really know. It's hard to pinpoint when I was interested in it. I've always loved, when I was a wee boy, I always loved kind of medieval themed films, and when I was a teenager, Lord of the Rings came out, and I was obsessed with that. That's kind of medieval-esque. So I've always had a real interest in history. I don't really know. My dad's interested in it, and he used to watch TV shows and documentaries and stuff. So maybe I picked it up from that, but I can't really pinpoint exactly where my interest came from, to be honest.
Would you love to do a soundtrack one day for a film like that? Because your music would be absolutely perfect for that.
Oh, I'm not too sure if they'd want screaming vocals and all sorts on it, but if the challenge was there to make a actual soundtrack with folk instruments and stuff, I'd definitely up for it.
So tell us a little bit about some of the instruments that we hear on this album, because of course you use instruments such as the Carnecks and tribal drumming. Where do you go to learn how to use those instruments, and how do you discover them in the first place?
Well, the Carnecks was because I'm interested in the picks and the um, Iron Age Celts used them as basically what almost like war horns when they were going into battle. It would kind of rally the troops. It would get them the blood pumping. It would scare the enemy. So I was always fascinated by that. I think the sound of the Carnix is just. I mean, I don't know if you've heard it, but it's, when there's a couple played, it's quite a intimidating thing, and it's quite it almost takes you back to that time. It's very very basic instrument, but it's crazy. For the tribal drums and stuff like that, basically I've got a kind of studio set up here, so I've got a lot of cool programs and stuff like that. I've got a few Celtic based programs on my studio, so I use some of them. Obviously I used acoustic guitars, tin whistles, which I've used previously in other albums. So yeah, there's a few different instruments on the album. I've never used Carnix, or I think this is probably the first time I've used those kind of tribal drums in this way. So I kind of wanted to experiment. I wanted the sound to be a bit more pagan, a bit more ancient sounding. So that's why I used those.
A lot of people have commented too on the fact that this album seems more guitar driven as well. Was that something that you set out to do, or did that just kind of happen organically when you started to work on these tracks?
Well, during the lockdowns, during 2020, 2021, I was listening to a lot of different music, and I really got into old school heavy metal, Iron Maiden and stuff like that. And I learned some of the songs just out of boredom, and I think that's just kind of come over into my songwriting. I always wanted the Saor material to be guitar driven. It's just that the previous album mixes are pretty bad. The guitar just never came out. It was a bit washy. I always wanted it to be more punchy and in your face. I've always loved heavy style guitars. So we managed to do that on this album, I think, because I think the production is really good. There's also guitar solos, dual leads, and galloping rhythms. That's all just from old school heavy metal. Old school heavy metal influences. Yeah, you definitely can hear a bit of Iron Maiden on the album.
Yeah.
A lot of people have said it's sort of who's that band? Running Wild. I don't actually know who that. I know who it is. I've not really listened to them though, but people making comparisons with that. That's just everything just happened. I don't think too deeply about what influences are going in it or whatever. I just go for it and hope for the best.
Now, in 2019, you toured so heavily, but then the last couple of years, I know Scotland has been in and out of lockdowns, the same as what we have here in Melbourne. What's the last couple of years been like for you not being able to tour? Did you concentrate on writing music, or how did you kind of escape everything that was happening with the pandemic?
Do you mean the prison islands of Australia and Scotland?
Yeah.
Basically, we gigged so much in 2019 that I was kind of happy for the months to have a break, because I prefer songwriting and recording and just jamming first and then live music comes next. I've never been huge on playing live. Over the years, I've gotten used to it, and I enjoy it now. But I'm more of just like a songwriter, and so all that traveling and playing, it takes it out of you. I mean, anyone that thinks touring and being a musician is easy is deluded, because it's extremely hard, both physically and mentally. Getting up early for flights and travelling hours and hours to just play 40 minutes on stage, and all the stress of running about trying to set things up. So yeah, it was a nice break for the first few months. After the first few months, then I just started to get really bored, like most people, and I started to miss travelling and Playing live, even jamming with the band, you miss that because it's a good laugh and we're all friends, and I suppose it's I've been doing it for so long that it was a bit weird to stop just like that all of a sudden. And we had loads of plans as well during 2020. Had loads of gigs and tours and stuff planned, which obviously never happened. But I kept myself busy, obviously, writing. Well, kind of like finishing off the first album, the last album, and just writing some demos. And as I said, learning other songs, continually playing bass and guitar, just so that I was, well rehearsed for when we come back. And I mean, since then we've only played, like, excluding 2 shows that were acoustic, maybe 6 or 7 shows since then, which is crazy because we're going into the middle of 2022.
Yeah, you've got a huge tour in September, October. Are you looking forward to that?
Well, we're actually only doing half of that tour now.
Yep.
Well, 19 days of it because my wife's pregnant and the baby's due at the end of that tour. So, but the 19 days will be cool. We're going across some places we've never played before, Spain, Hungary, and a few other places. So that'll be awesome. And also, I've never toured in a tour bus, so that'll be really cool. That's like a bucket list thing from when you're younger.
Yep. To
tour in a tour bus with obviously a legend like Gal. That's pretty amazing. So yeah, really looking forward to that.
Awesome. Well, on our show right now, we are going to play Beyond the Wall and Origins back to back. So what would you like to say to all of the listeners out there, not only before they take a listen to these 2 amazing tracks back to back, but also before they go out and grab the album as well?
Remember and buy merch too, because I'm poor.
Definitely. Actually, give it a plug. Where can people grab your merch, and what kind of merch have you got available?
We've got the official store, which is Saor, saor.travelling-merchant.com. That's our official store. You can find it on saormusic.com. All the stuff's there. We've got t-shirts and patches and all sorts of cool stuff.
Awesome. Well, Andy, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us tonight. It's been an absolute honour having you on the show, and I know that we're going to win you some more fans right now by playing these 2 tracks together. So thank you so much for being on the show.